Open House Europe. And I think we're supposed to be more non-formal today, but I will start from very inspiring words. As we gathered here today, I am reminded of the importance of architecture in our lives. Buildings are more than just functional structures that shelter us from the elements. They are the physical manifestations of our dreams, hopes, and aspirations. They are the spaces where we live, work, learn, play, and love. They are the places where memories are made and history is written. The Open House Europe project recognizes the significance of architecture and the role it plays in shaping our future. The project aims to showcase the best of European architecture and to engage the public in a dialogue about the built environment. By opening up buildings to the public and facilitating discussions and debates, we can foster a greater appreciation for architecture and inspire a new generation of designers, architects, and urban planners. What an inspiring speech I just told you, isn't it? Woo! Well, we have more than 12 speakers today, so you need to keep that applause in very right mood, I think. Everyone will need applause. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, it's now my pleasure to invite for few welcoming words our distinguished guest, Vice Minister of Culture of Republic of Lithuania, Daina Urbanavičienė. Please welcome.
Good evening. A warm greeting to all participants and guests. It's a great honor to be able to welcome the start of this very ambitious international cooperation project, Open House Europe, as well as the coordinator of this project, Architektūros fondas, its participants and partners from many European cities. It is a long past time to encourage wider discussions on a European scale about architecture and its role in forming a common European identity, and to strengthen the role of architecture in addressing social and environmental issues, and to ensure the knowledge about high-quality architecture and the built environment are broadly accessible. Such tasks will be addressed through a variety of activities in the context of the Open House Europe project, and I would like to think that all of this will also be of use in rebuilding post-war Ukraine, an inseparable part of Europe. I wish all project participants a very successful start, fruitful discussions, and productive activities. Have a nice time, and thank you.
This is my microphone. Okay, so thank you, Daina, for your inspiring words and your insights. And now let me invite to this stage another guest of this evening, the chairwoman of Lithuanian Council for Culture, Asta Pakarklytė.
Good evening for you all. I fell in love with Open House Vilnius 6 years ago. The very first building I visited in 2017 was a studio of a sculptor, round, modern building with a glass roof, which is usually closed. Exactly this feature of openness appeared for me as extraordinary. The opportunity to access places that are usually closed, to get somewhere everyday routes never take you, and to pay attention to things that usually go unnoticed. Moreover, the idea of open house is not only about openness, but also about the connection you make with houses you always see, but you never enter or get to know. And later on, I noticed another valuable feature of this exceptional event, the community. I saw the same faces every year, faces of architecture lovers, guides, volunteers, visitors. Of course, they were constantly joined by new members. Therefore, the heart of the community never stopped beating. And now I'm happy to see that this Lithuanian community is growing stronger into Open House Europe. And I'm sure that architecture and the idea of Open House will move Europe. I wish you all lots of unforgettable encounters and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Asta. I believe we all will have unforgettable encounters. And I think, what was my first building I visited in Open House, Vilnius? And what was the first building I visited in Vilnius at all? So, thank you, Asta, again. And now we're having a greeting from Vilnius City Mayor. Thank you, him, for giving us his precious time, being last days of Vilnius Mayor actually now. He sends us greetings and welcomes all of us.
Dear guests, dear organizers of Open House Vilnius, dear hosts, dear participants, it's a great pleasure for me to say some words of welcome for those who are opening up your houses to Vilnius citizens, to know what's inside, to see the beauty of our buildings. But it's also very important to have a city which is open. And my policy was always to have open city in all aspects, in being open to the future, in being open to change, in being open to the world, and of course in being open from a urbanistic perspective, for the houses to be inviting for those who are using the street, for the city to be welcoming to pedestrians, to bicycle users, to public transport, to everyone, for citizens to feel like at home in the city. So I'm really delighted that we have this festival. I'm really delighted that we have Open City. I'm really delighted that we have beautiful houses and more and more of this good quality buildings. Please enjoy our city. Please enjoy Vilnius. And let's open our houses.
Actually, that was the role model for political speech. Anyway, really, thank you for Vilnius Mayor for giving speech and giving his insights. I hope we'll share this video afterwards and you can be able to hear his greeting. And now we have another live guest, and this is Julia Reklaitė, director of the Lithuanian Culture Institute, actually newly appointed director of Lithuanian Culture Institute and former head of Architektūros fondas.
Dear architects and architecture enthusiasts, what can I say on this spring day when you can sense the promise of revival in such a beautiful crowd of young architecture enthusiasts that has a strong will and belief, courage and passion? I can't really imagine where this movement will lead in the future. So let me go a few steps back in the past, which was already mentioned. So it was 2009, which is even hard to remember now, but then I was invited to lead Architektūros fondas. It was an institution initiated by great will and the idea to promote architecture values in society. But on another hand, in reality, it was an address, a bank account, and one employee. And basically, that was it. Architects react to crisis with a creativity and imagination, so having in mind that in 2009 we experienced economical crisis, many ideas that were in the air exploded and started to flourish. Now I have enough experience to say that architecture is a profession by definition that is willing to change the world, and architects are the ones that usually do. The tension for action these 13 years ago were in the air, and even when many great ideas met with a difficult reality, many great projects were initiated, and what is the most important, a community of several thousand people is gathered since then. But I can guarantee that no one of us could even think that one day in 13 years, Architektūros fondas will be a leader institution that will invite so many great cities and institutions to be together and think of values as diversity, openness, vulnerability, transformation, and so on in our built environment. I'm more than proud today to be part of this testimony of this evolution in 13 years. So as we live in the world that is surviving biggest crisis, even I can sense that it is just the beginning of new era. And I strongly believe that architects are the ones who can transform the future. Thinking about ambition, courage, and goodwill, I would like to wish something for the future as well. So my wish for today for you is that for the second round of this project, at least one more city will be involved, will be visited, will be celebrated, and I do hope that next time we meet in such a honorable audience, we will be able to welcome Kiev as one of the members of the family of Open House Europe. So enjoy your freedom and network for the better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. I'm delighted to announce our next guest speaker, who, although unable to join us in person and has graciously recorded a video message from a distant location, it's my pleasure to present to you Alice Shin, curator of Open House Worldwide. Please join me in giving warm applause to Alice.
Hello, Open House Europe partners. Huge congratulations on the launch of the project. It's such an incredible accomplishment and so well deserved. It's recognition that the work you're doing matters, and it's inspirational for all of us in the network who also believe that deepening the relationship between people and places is so important for the health and vitality of cities. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to celebrate this milestone with you today, but I and the whole Open House Worldwide team is cheering you on from afar. We can't wait to see how you continue to grow the project, and I'm confident that the work you're doing will not only have a big impact in your cities, but will also touch all cities in the network and the millions of people who engage in open house festivals every year. Thank you for leading this important work, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Alice. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the director of Architektūros fondas, Martynas Germanavičius, who will present the Open House Europe project and that awaits in this exciting journey, all of us. Please join me in welcoming Martynas.
Thank you, Julius. Dear distinguished guests, open house organizers, open house volunteers, guides, and all devoted visitors, our partners who are not today with us, but we feel you're present even from a distance. It is such a pleasure, after a few years of scrupulous planning, online talks, to finally welcome you in Vilnius and launch Open House Europe project. Really. And just to say once more, like we haven't heard mayor speaking, but this year is also a 700th anniversary of Vilnius. So it's even more special occasion to meet in Vilnius. I think we are all amazed of how such a simple and yet very inspiring initiative as Open House has found access to so many hearts and connected so many people around the world. Thus, I presume there is no need to introduce the Open House initiative and the concept. We were all, at some point, organizers, volunteers, guides, visitors. But today, I would like to present you a new page that we are just about to unfold. So let me please be your guide, and I will lead you through the main hallways and rooms of Open House Europe project. More than 30 years ago, the Open House initiative started in London and was led by amazing Victoria Thornton, who in 2015 also visited Vilnius and launched Open House Vilnius. Gradually, the event and the concept of architecture weekends with free of charge guided tours became a sensational phenomena in many cities around the globe. So nowadays, we have more than 50 cities organizing open house events, such as New York, Lagos, Seoul, and many, many more. Let alone in Europe, there are more than 30 cities having annual open house events. All of the open house family is connected through Open House Worldwide Network, so the potential for cooperation among partners is huge, and there are already a few big steps that being made while organizing Open House Worldwide festivals. Having that in mind, our aim was to develop and bring international collaboration to a new level. From the very beginning, we wanted to make Open House not just a brand, but a cooperation project based on values of openness and joint effort. Let me be clear, I meant Open House Europe. But what you are witnessing is just the beginning of our journey. So please be patient, forgive our mistakes, and help when we will need your help. Because we really strive to make the project exemplary and bringing together all dedicated and passionate people in Europe and beyond. At the moment, there are 11 organizations joining us. So it's just 1/3 of Europe, and we're coming from Brno, Czech Republic, Tallinn, Estonia, Essen, Germany, Athens and Thessaloniki, Greece, Dublin, Ireland, Milan, Italy, Vilnius, Lithuania, Lisbon, Portugal, Slovenia, with many cities, Spain and Bilbao team, Stockholm, Sweden. So what is all about? What is Open House Europe? Well, you know what is Open House, but Open House Europe is a cooperation project co-funded by the European Union. And to put it shortly, it seeks to foster a more inclusive debate about architecture as a positive change maker, addressing relevant social and environmental challenges by bringing the values of quality spaces to the general public and empower citizens to advocate for a well-designed built environment. Our cities and their architecture are places of daily domestic, social, cultural, and economic interactions. They encompass our day-to-day lives and have a fundamental impact on the quality of living. We believe that these issues surrounding our built environment and its quality are of common concern. Thus, in an open and democratic society, this knowledge should be accessible and available to all of us. But why do we need, one might ask? Because Open House is already doing this and already fulfilling the mission I just mentioned in the one or another way. So really, what do this cooperation and joining our forces bring to us? Sorry, it jumped. Okay, I'll keep you hanging with the questions. And finally, in a nutshell, Open House Europe is a project that activates cross-border cooperation between organizations. And in doing this, we have written a lot of things that we are going to achieve. So these are, let's see now, abstract words maybe to you, but I'll try to unpack each one of these aspects by trying to show them in a more, let's say, key aspects of our project. So first one is innovation through collaboration. And by this we mean that we as open house organizers will collaborate on multiple levels. So this will affect us as organizers, but also volunteers who will be able to travel and experience different open house in different cities. Secondly, we will develop an international dimension, and by this we also have in mind that architecture is not an isolated process. It always is shaped by the different ideas, and this is what Open House Europe will aim to show. The debate about architecture, such as, for example, the initiative on New European Bauhaus, we will be able to unpack it through the showing different examples in Europe. And finally, ensuring openness in architecture is one of our key principles. By this, I also mean two things. So one is a direct one. We will aim to have more access to various social groups. It will be also lingual barriers. We will step them over, as well as other special needs. But also, we think that open house is such a great concept because it opens the architecture debate to the very general public. So by bringing, let's say, more the topics that are kind of concern of architects to the general public, we will aim to include them into the debate about our built environment. So how this will work? We will have a common agenda for 3 years. Each year we will have an annual theme that will be focusing on one of the aspects. So first year, this year, we will start with a theme of sustainability. Next year we will focus on access and inclusion. And finally we will summarize our project with a team dedicated to the future of heritage. The thematic integration will be done in multiple levels. So this means it will be visible in local activities. We will have part of open house programs highlighted with an annual theme, but also we will have more common activities that will appear in the 3 years. So common activities, one of the main common activity is that we are going to have an annual summit that will summarize our experiences, and together with the experts we will gather at the end of the year to see what is sustainability, what kind of examples do we have, for example, or if it's an access and inclusion. So all of these themes will be presented in Lisbon, Dublin, and Athens followingly. So one of the most interesting maybe aspects to those who are volunteers or been volunteers in the open house, we will have news for you, because experienced volunteers will be invited to the exchange program, and 5 of volunteers each year will be able to travel to different open houses and help to implement their programs. Yeah, happy people ready to go on an exchange trip. Another aspect is the digital infrastructure that will connect and will make visible Open House Europe program. So we will have a digital atlas. It will be an interactive map archive presenting architecture objects from local open house events, website, that will present various consortium activities happening throughout the year related with the annual theme. And we will also aim to have one mobile application for all partners. And this would be a really useful gadget for the visitors to navigate and extend the experience of open house events. Finally, we will also aim to propose something new for you, visitors. So, starting from this year in local open house events, part of the programs will also be accessible for non-native language speakers. And next year, with the annual theme dedicated to access and inclusion in architecture, we will also aim to make our programs more accessible for different social groups with various special needs. Second aspect is that we are going to have visual stories. So one slide back, please. Yeah, thank you. So this will also enable you visitors to reflect on the annual themes, and by participating in the call for visual stories, you could propose your vision of how do you see sustainability, access and inclusion, or future of heritage in architecture. And finally, if you are open house organizer, we have news for you. So each year we will also have open call for new organizations or organizations already organizing open house. And there would be two sections. So the guest cities would be invited to present their programs in annual summit, and their programs will be represented in digital platform, while the new partners For new partners, we will have also a call, and this means that we would also aim to implement annual themes and integrate these themes within your programs, ensure events internationalization, so you would have to have non-native language excursions or part of the program. You would have a chance to participate in volunteers exchange and annual summits. And with all of these responsibilities, the selected partners will also receive financial support. So we really hope that Kiev one day would be able to join Open House Europe. And with all that being said and shown, I really hope it makes it more clear for you what is our direction for the upcoming 3-year journey, in which we really hope our paths will cross and you will join us in one or more of Open House Europe activities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Martynas. You really multitasked beautifully on the stage. And thank you for presenting Open House Europe. It's really a beautiful project. And I would like to send one more thank you for all of our guests for your messages and for inspiring words. We can make an applause for Asta, Daina, Julia, and Martynas once again. Because it's almost time to move on to the second part of our event, where we will get to know more about the 12 European open house cities who come together to initiate Open House Europe. And first of all, we will travel to Greece, to Athens, and please welcome Tatiana Anagnostar, founding member of Open House Greece, to the stage. Stage is yours. Microphone too.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Tatiana Anagnostar. I'm the marketing manager of Open House Athens. Can you please? Okay. As you all know, Athens is the capital of Greece. It has a history of 9,000 years and a population of almost 4 million. And we've started Open House Athens in 2014 as an attempt to showcase Athenian architecture beyond its historical and iconic monuments. I'm also the founding member of Open House Greece, along with Katerina Doudoumi and Renata Douma. And we have an organizing committee every year that prepares every detail for many months before every event. And we have 500 volunteers and the group coordinators that prepare, organize, and coordinate all these volunteers. The main event takes place every April, a weekend of free architectural tours in about 100 buildings. And in every building, we have a group of volunteers that welcomes, registers, guide, and accompany all these thousands of visitors. We have the support of our sponsors from the public sector and from the private sector as well. And their support, financial and in kind, is what makes our event happen every year. We have a lot of parallel events that happen before, during the weekend, and a bit after. We have some walking tours, we have school tours, we have bike tours, and we also have a lot of competitions that start during the event. We have a photo contest, an an audience award, map contest, and we try to do that in order to make the event more interesting, more appealing, and more interactive for the visitors and for the sponsors as well. These are our social media info. Please follow us. And I would like to invite you all to our Open House Athens event that will take place on the 1st and 2nd of April. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana, for your insightful presentation. And now I would like to invite Joaquin Santiago, President of Open Urbanity non-profit organization, to the stage to share with us the highlights of Open House Bilbao.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I am Joaquin Santiago. I am the director and president of Open Urbanity, the association that promotes the festival of Open House Bilbao. Open House Bilbao is this year celebrating its 7th edition. And well, let's try to go. This is the last slide. Let's try to move to the first one. Here, well, let's see. This is Bilbao. Bilbao is a city which is linked to the river. Its history is completely linked to the river, and actually our festival is also based on this idea of extending the Open House Bilbao along the river. We do have more than 60 buildings each year and more than 35 visitors. And our goal, our challenge is to translate architecture through or linked to the history of the city, and that's why we work with this idea of symbols and colors, creating this new language in terms of trying to connect with all the public. One of our main strengths is volunteers. We do have more than 400 volunteers each year. Most of them are women. We do have more than 70% of women volunteers. We do have also a lot of young volunteers, and each of them has different roles, from guiding to also informing people through the city to take part in the festival, and also the proximity volunteers, which help us, the organization, to really connect with the big crew of volunteers. On the other side, more than on opening the buildings, we do have like a complementary program with activities like, for example, the Open House Bilbao Passport, which really challenges people to visit as much buildings as possible, which is really interesting mainly for the children, but also other activities like boat tours, in which we could see all the evolution of the city through the facades of the river, from the Bilbao municipality to to the different municipalities that process the riverfront. And in terms of organization, we are mainly a group of 5 architects, 5 friends, that are the core of the organization during the year. That this is extended in the 2 months before the festival with 10 new profiles, the coordination team, that they really help us to organize and distribute all the volunteer crew. And on the other side, in terms of sponsorship and supports, we have to thank you to the Bilbao municipality, because they have been a really big support in all this way, that together also with the Basque region, they are giving fundings for this festival. And on the other side, we also like partnershiping with local educational institutions, mainly the universities, that help us also to engage students in the project. And with this, I think we do have, our goal is to connect with as much people as possible in a fresh way. So we really work on these different social platforms. And here you have our social media to contact us directly and follow us. Thank you, and eskerrik asko, as we say in Basque.
Thank you, Joaquin. Thank you for sharing with us. Now I'd like to invite the representative of Open House Brno, Martin Peschel, to come to the stage and to give some insights on their city architecture. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, my name is Martin, and welcome to Open House Brno. We are just a small group of volunteers, and the colorful lives we have in Brno can be shown from various angles in new shapes, new vistas, and from the places which were not accessible for last 60 years. So we like to bring more people inside, but also to show them all the functions of the city, which are usually not that much discussed. And for me, this means showing up at the hospital, its functions, its roles, but keeping an eye on the architecture, as is famous Mies van der Rohe Villa Tungenhat in Brno. So beyond the architecture, we go to green walks, explaining the lungs of our city, parks, gardens, but also we go in the sky, including our small skyscrapers, restaurants in the clouds, or the hospital views. So that's just complemented by the functions of each of us, because each of us belongs to different university, different specialty. So showing what we know, what we can share as a scientific institute or other specialists. What is our passion is music and culture, and our team is based on University of Music and Performing Arts of Leoš Janáček. So we are keeping an eye on the music with our off programs. And since 2017, we are showing Brno in new ways. This means that in these few years, we hosted 70,000 visits and 100,000 online views, thanks to a group of total more than 400 volunteers. That allowed us to show more than 200 locations, 100 online tours, and thanks to our sponsors and municipality with 24 grants. This is all done without any permanent employees, but this group of good souls, I have to pick up my dear wife, which is Lucy, and Martina, who is author of all the photographs in this presentation. And you may see that our team is heavily dependent on Barbora. We have so many Barboras that I cannot name them all. So we would like to invite you to Brno in mid-May. Also the next year looks pretty much sure, and we will be again showing children programs as Wanna Be an Architect, all the new twins. This year topic is Women in Architecture, but also we are preparing sort of helping projects as donating to blood bank, which is part of my hospital. For volunteers, we are organizing so-called Volunteer Thursdays because the volunteers cannot join us on more walks than they are just guiding, and we have also open fire for showing up the midway between Saturday and Sunday of the festival, as you have 2 days. Please find our programs on the social networks and also our professional guarants as are shown there. So thank you for your attention and talk to you.
That will be also mine now. Thank you, Martin. Small skyscrapers is a really good idea. Small skyscrapers, good. And now I would like to invite the representative of Open House Dublin, Karen Lee Walpole, Open House Dublin manager at Irish Architecture Foundation, to come to stage and to tell us more about your festival.
I'm going to try and multitask here, and I'm going to fail because I have 2 hands and not 3. Hi everyone, I'm Karen Lee and I'm the Open House Dublin manager. I'm going to give you just a very brief overview of what we do in Dublin and also our plans for this year. Open House Dublin is Ireland's largest architecture festival and is hosted by the Irish Architecture Foundation since 2005. The IAF is an independent, non-profit organisation dedicated to the promotion of architecture as culture. We seek to champion the power of architecture to transform lives and improve the places where we live, work and play. As part of an extensive programme of projects and initiatives nationally, each October we host over 150 free architectural tours and events across the city and county, with more than 20,000 visits during Open House. Open House Dublin celebrates great architecture, urban design, and the people who contribute to the creation of Built Dublin. So we are very proud and excited to be part of this project. Our 2023 programme will embrace this new and exciting initiative. Our Open House Dublin tour programme for 2023 will respond to the shared theme of sustainability by highlighting exemplary, sustainable architecture and by placing a focus on long-term thinking and planning in our city and county. We will dedicate a weekend of tours and events and workshops for families and young people, Open House Junior, which will be centred on the themes of sustainability, leadership, care, access, inclusion. We seek to capture the imagination of our children and our young people through Open House. As part of our Open House Dublin Talks programme, we will host a week-long series of intimate public talks which will examine the right to the city, access and building a sustainable future for all of us. Our online Open House Journal will gather stories and ideas from across the city and highlight sustainable projects and developments. We want everyone to experience Open House, and for Open House to be a festival that centres accessibility. That's something that's very important to us. We'll work with local communities to grow our access accommodations, sign language tours, captioning, sensory and neurodiverse programming, and offer tours where possible as well in additional languages. And finally, without our network of volunteers, there would be no Open House. I know you all know that. Our local and visiting volunteers from Open House Europe will take part in bespoke training and will provide plenty of opportunities for knowledge sharing and cooperation. That's our program for 2023, the short version. And a big thank you to Vilnius and to all of you. I look forward to working with you all over the next 3 years. Those are our details, and we obviously invite you to come to Dublin in October for Open House Dublin. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for your informative presentation. The Irish Architecture Foundation has done a great job with Open House Dublin. Now, dear guests, I would like to invite the founder of Open House Essen, Natalia Taranta, to come to stage and to share their experience on the festival.
Hello, my name is Natalia Taranta. I'm the founder of Open House Essen. It's the first German edition of Open House Worldwide. The festival will take place on the 7th and 8th of October, so you're all invited. Apart from that, we make Open House Essen Plus. That's what we called with all the events which are coming additionally to the weekend program. Yes, so as I said, Open House Essen is the first German edition of Open House Worldwide, and it was hosted in 2021. So I think we are the youngest open house here, so we're really happy to be here, to be the part of Open House Europe, and really looking forward to that, what's coming. Can you hear me, or is it like... in 2021, our main topic was redevelopment, 2022 Green City, and 2023 we will make it all together as sustainability. And towards to Essen, European Capital of Culture for 2010, European Green Capital in 2017, which is also showing our program, which we want to show, and the 10th largest city in Germany. Yeah, we have access to more than 60 buildings, which are historical, redeveloped for new purposes and in the process of change. Thanks to great people shaping the city's character, Essen is known as an industrial city with industrial heritage. So showing the developing city is really the thing we want to do. We show Essen from the roofs, open doors and windows, and we go underground to give a unique experience of getting deep into the living city in all its colors. We also try to give input to discussions in Germany, and it takes place in Essen, but then we show the themes which are important right now for the whole Germany and for the whole region of North Rhine-Westphalia. And here we can see the discussion we made in Essen, but already with Zurich, Basel and Vienna, which are also open house hosting cities. So that was the first German-speaking meeting in open house family. We also make a VR photo exhibition together with me here in Vilnius are my colleagues Daniel Gugic and Severin Roth, which are great when it comes to digital part of architecture. As I said, we started in 2021, which was the year of Corona, so we really needed to develop lots of VR and digital things. So that's what we did, and now we still develop it with Mozilla hubs. So everyone knows that this is industrial region, but nobody knows that that's what visitors and people in Essen say. I didn't know Essen was such a green city, or every time someone visits me in Essen, they say they didn't expect it to be green. So that's what we want to show with our festival and with our partners. When it comes to inclusion, another theme of Open House Europe, I don't know if it's visible, but this is a screenshot from our Instagram, where we started giving information in German, English, Polish, Turkish, and Arabic to inform people who are not always speaking German. And also here are the people who are our volunteers, but also volunteering for Argentina and Greece. So maybe you know each other. Yeah, and this is about heritage. There's just a photo showing the history of the city and how green it is. And this would be everything, I think. It doesn't work. Okay, follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you, Natalia. And dear guests, we need new city in open house. Essen just joined, so give your warm applause to Essen. You really need to invite Cologne and Düsseldorf to come to the project as soon as possible. And this will be a joint project. Good. That's very important, but Cologne would like to join you. Good, so now we'll travel to Lisbon, and I would like to invite the coordinator of Open House Lisbon, Carolina Vicente, to the stage to present your festival and your experiences. 1, 2.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Carolina, Open House Lisbon coordinator. So, sorry. Let's try. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, yeah, this is the first slide. So, Open House Lisbon is organized by the Lisbon Architecture Triennale. We are a non-profit organization whose mission is to explore, foster, and promote architectural thinking and practice. Sorry, maybe that way. Yeah, sorry. Okay, here you can see like an evolution since we started organizing Open House Lisbon. So we started in 2012, and here you can see what kind of projects, activities we launch each year. So I don't go very far from what is written here because we don't have much time, but you can see each year we try to launch a new program. Here you can see some of relevant numbers. So we made already 11 editions. We've shown 370 buildings until now. We made 23 urban walks, 11 sound walks, and we have engaged around 2,000 volunteers. This is just oh, sorry. It has life, this, this object. Okay, so beside the tours, we also have a lot of programs going on. So we have the program that we called Plus, that is like we have performance, workshops, and so on in specific buildings that are open to the public. We also have like a junior program that is dedicated to families. Another program that is dedicated to people with some kind of disability, and that's it. And here you can see some graphic materials. Okay. We have also an online atlas. This is really interesting because it gathers all the buildings that were part of Open House until now, and we can make a research by authorship, year of construction, type of building, and so on. Our next edition will be on the 13th and 14th of May, as many of other cities also will have the open house in these dates. The thematic of this year edition will be the different cycles that the buildings have throughout the years. So that's it. And we, since 2020, we also produce sound walks. So here you have one example of one of the sound walks that we have available in our website. This is the only one available in English, so enjoy it if you can. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline. And as far as you noticed, if you expect some problems with switcher, so switch audience always. Like this. Oh, sorry. Yeah? No? Does that work? No, that's just stopped. So, yes. Somebody will fix it. And in this gap, I would like to invite founder and director of Open House Milano, Maja Plata, to come here and to present your experience. Please try. If nothing will work, we'll think about that. Yes, please try now. Good.
Hello, thanks everyone. I'm Maja, the founder of Open House Milan. So we born in 2015, and formally we present our association, that is also Open House Milano, during the Expo 2015 in Milan. But the first edition was take place in 2016. Actually, we made 7 editions. We opened around like 100 sites per year, engaging almost like 150, 200 volunteers per edition, and with an average of people that are visitors that around like during almost after the pandemic, which was like 20,000 people. Before was more. So let's go ahead, but if it works. The next edition will come, of course, again, will be like on 13th of May, so like our several other edition in Open House. But for the people of Vilnius, there are direct flights from Vilnius to Milan, so you are welcome. And for all because of the new, one of the new implementation of the visa edition will be also like we will take place on several places. So sites will be also guided tour in English, so will be welcome foreigners. The theme of this 8th edition will be urban humanism. So we want to put the attention that the human being is at the center of the reflection of architecture. Sometimes we forget it. So it's important to come back. And especially we'll be focused on the sustainability, greening, but it's not just like the point, but greening like sustainable buildings. And in other cases, just like sustainability buildings. We'll do also some other, we will take place the first workshop that we organize with another partner that we have, that is NABA, the Academy of Well Arts. And what else? If it works, it's all. So this is our social network to keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Maja, for your engaging presentation, and thank you for your amazing job showcasing architecture of Milan. And now I'd like to invite Open House Slovenia program manager, Eva Eržen, to come to the stage and to share your program with us.
How does it work?
This one.
Like this one?
No. Yes, I think it could be like this.
And this one? Okay. Hi, I'm Eva from Open House Slovenia, and I will briefly present you our programs and activities. Okay. Open House Slovenia is the biggest and the only architectural festival in Slovenia. It's also a platform for understanding architecture in everyday life. We are part of Open House family since 2010. So this year it will be the 14th edition of our Open House Festival, and it will happen from 14th to 16th of April. We are also the only one participating as a whole country, as you may notice, because we are quite small. We have only 2 million inhabitants. Every year we have an annual festival theme,
which we then communicate with the media and also our visitors. This year's theme will also correspond to Open House Europe's theme. Every year we have also expert jury, which is made of different experts in the field of architecture, art, design, urban design, and sociology. And they review all the project applications and also approve our festival program. During our working years, we have also developed the biggest online platform of modern Slovenian architecture, which is available in Slovenian and also in English, with key information about all the projects that participated in Open House Festival. And we already have more than 900 projects. So it's really like a bridge between the professionals and also the general public. In addition to these two main segments, we also produce the podcast Open. This year it will be the 5th season of the podcast, and we host different experts. We tackle different themes and issues in the field of architecture, sustainability, and so on. We also produce short films where we showcase the best practices in Slovenian architecture. We do guided tours for foreign architectural bureaus, and we also organize and curate architectural exhibitions. This year there will be 2 architectural exhibitions in public space. One starting already in summer in our capital Ljubljana in the city center. Since 2018, we also co-mentor student workshop, which is called Understanding Architecture, where architectural students visually and theoretically interpret different projects in architecture. Oh, okay. Okay, since 2019, we also started giving Open House Slovenia Award. It's the first award in the field of architecture in Slovenia, which is given by the public to architectural projects participating in Open House Festival. And it's given to architects and also investors and builders and other contractors in the project. For us, this award is really important because it gives the public opportunity to connect with architecture and also to get in a dialogue with it somehow. So that's briefly everything from me. We are kindly invited to look at our website and follow us on social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva, and thank you for your amazing job that Open House Slovenia does. And now it's Sweden's turn. Let me invite, yes, not Tallinn, yet not Tallinn, as Executive Officer of Open House Stockholm, Joanna Mesmer, to the stage.
Thank you very much. Joanna Mesmer, my name is, and I'm the officer, the manager of Open House Stockholm in Sweden. And I hope this will work now. Yeah, it does. We were established in 2016, so 7 years ago. And we are a non-profit organization which was founded by 4 other non-profit organizations, a lot of non-profit here. And last year, in 2022, we had 75 objects, and we also arranged our festival outside the city. So we have a lot of things going on, like 30 minutes away, maybe, or maybe an hour. So our visitors travel a lot. During the year, we have different activities. We have a reference group who works with the program, so they're planning the whole program together. And the reference group is, they're kind of experts in the reference group, and me and Natalie. We are not the experts, but we have experts. We also have volunteer recruitment events, so we get volunteers, and we actually have a very small group. We just have 50 volunteers. the others here, you have like 800. It's crazy for us. So crazy. We also arranged a bike tour, a guided bike tour, first time last year, and we're going to do this again and again because it was a really great experience. You can see so much when you travel by bike. And we had the guide. He was sitting inside this carriage. It was so funny. Yeah, and we also have information meetings for all of our volunteers, exhibitioners, and people engaged in the festival. Yeah, okay. All right. And then we also have launch events and partner events for the people in the festival. Of course, we have the festival and then the closing events for volunteers. And also, sometimes we have workshops during the year to make the festival better or to discuss some questions. Our program has great variation. We have indoor and outdoor objects. We show new buildings, we show vintage and everything in between. Our public, our visitors, they are young and senior and in between. It's like everything. And we try to arrange our objects in clusters so that you can visit several objects at the same time in the area. And we try to work with interactive objects and cooperation between the real estate owner and the architect. So, and also some activities for children. We had like gaming center last year, so we got the younger public to join open house. And you could also try being an architect for a day on openhouse.com. So, and you can find us on social media as everybody else. And here you see a part of our team. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna. Gaming center is really a cool idea, I think. And now, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, we're going to Open House Tallinn, and I would like to invite Alexander Tali, the producer of Open House Tallinn, to come to stage and to present what is happening in Tallinn.
Hello, everybody. I am Alexander from Open House Tallinn, and I will be presenting a short, brief presentation of our event and what are we going to do for Open House Europe. Yes, so we have started with our open house from 2019. So this year will be our 5th edition, and the open house is organized by the Estonian Center of Architecture. We have a 2-day event a weekend, and we really try to integrate and empower the people and society with architecture. And here is also some statistical information about our event. Also some pictures. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it already changed. We also try to integrate more the minorities, as we have tours in 3 languages, Estonian, English, and Russian, to accommodate all of the minorities. We also have multicultural volunteers, in the sense of that we also have volunteers ranging from like 16 years to 76, but we also try to incorporate minorities, which are, for example, last year we had Ukrainians and NATO soldiers as our volunteers. What's next for us? What we are trying to achieve during Open House Europe, we really want to expand our foreign language tours, mainly on English tours, to make more of the English tours, to everybody can come and enjoy the architecture of Tallinn. We want to build a new comprehensive website with also historical information as well about previous open houses, so you can read about our architecture. Mini lectures just to empower and educate all of the people, which we have all the visitors in Tallinn and abroad. We also try to do bike tours in October, which will be a tough thing, but we will manage. And on a non-specific time frame, we are also wanting to do video tours for international audiences, because not everybody can come to Estonia and Tallinn. We want to give the Estonian architecture for them far away in an easier manner. And that's it for me. Thank you all, and come visit Estonia.
Thank you, Alexander. I would like to do an applause check. This is really important action because we still have 2 presentations to go, and it's getting quite not chilly, but not very warm in this hall. So please give your warm welcome, warm applause, ladies and gentlemen. 2 presentations to go. So 1, 2, 3, your warm applause. Very good. I really enjoy this part of my job because I make people happy because we are clapping, and that really changes the situation. I hope so. So thank you, Alexander, once more. We'll definitely come to Tallinn. And now I would like to invite founding member of Open House Greece and communication manager Renata Duma to the stage and share some insights on Open House Thessaloniki. Please welcome, and again, round applause.
Does it work? Okay, I hope it works. Well, hello, I'm Renata. I'm a founding member of Open House Thessaloniki and also the communication manager. Thessaloniki is, as we like to say, the sub-capital of Greece. It's the 2nd largest city with a population of 1 million. It has a long history of 2,000 years. It has been a crossroad of different civilizations, cultures, and religions, and you can see that in its architectural heritage. What's unique about the city is that it has a long, very long linear waterfront, and the city is around this waterfront. In 2012, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the city's liberation from the Turks, and we wanted to do something creative for the city, so we decided to found Open House. We are 3 members, as Tatiana mentioned earlier. It's me, Tatiana Lagnastara, and Katerina Dudumi, and we founded the company Open House Greece. It's a non-profit company. It's here we have an organizing committee. What's a key role in the organizing committee is the volunteer coordinator position. We have a very large team, 500 volunteers, and we pick 20 volunteers with more responsibilities that we call group coordinators. Usually we have 100 buildings. That was before COVID. Now we do a smaller event, and last year that we celebrated the 10th anniversary of Open House, we had 70 buildings. We have volunteers in every building that they guide the tours, they welcome and register the visitors, and they accompany the groups inside the buildings. We are supported by and co-funded by the Ministry of Culture and the Municipality of Thessaloniki, and we also have private sponsorships. In order to enhance the program, we have a lot of parallel events. The Friday of the main event we dedicated to our educational program. We have we invite schools that can visit our program. We also have a lot of competition, and every year, every weekend closes with a cheerful party. And this is our social media. You can follow us, and we invite you to Thessaloniki. That is to our event that's happening in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. Beautiful job showcasing architecture in Thessaloniki. And now, dear guests, last but not the least, I would like to invite project managers of Open House Vilnius. Emilija Gruzdytė, Rita Tamulevičiūtė, Mantas Razgaitis. And now some excursion to Vilnius Open House. Please welcome.
Hello everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to see you all here in Vilnius. So we would like to present Open House Vilnius. We'll do it very briefly. Here's Emilia, Rita, and me, Mantas. Open House Vilnius is organized by Architektūros fondas, the same organization which is coordinating this wonderful project, which is starting today, Open House Europe. So thank you for them. Also, because we are in Vilnius, we are not only three of us, but there is lots of organizers from later editions, earlier editions of Open House Vilnius, also our team members from this year's coordinators team. So thank you all that we can organize this year the 9th edition of Open House Vilnius. Open House Vilnius started at 2015, and we tried today to say what's unique about Open House Vilnius and what are we focusing most on. So I think the first thing to mention is the volunteers, because without volunteers we couldn't make that event that many times and in this big scale. So our event is actually based on volunteers, and our volunteers not only lead tours, not only guide people, say the main information, but they also create the excursions, create the content, and they are the main part of our event. I'll give you now the microphone to Rita, and she'll tell more about the numbers and how we succeeded.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to share about steady growth. So Open House started in 2015, and we have 30 buildings, 140 volunteers, and 8,000 visits. So after first Open House, everyone was so excited, and Open House started to grow. And after 8 years, in 2022, we have 58 buildings, 450 volunteers, and actually, when we calculate, it will be 35 visits. And for next year, we decide, not for next year, for that year, we decide to have actually something like last year, because it's something like best size for our team. And we hope so to see everyone in May 13 and 14 in our Open House.
And I would like to add a few words about our uniqueness, at least how we are unique in Vilnius context. But after all presentations, I saw that we have quite a lot of differences among different open houses as well. So first of all, our main focus is architecture from late 19th century, so mainly modernist and contemporary architecture. Next, each year we want to find some kind of collaborations with different artists from different fields. So we had best Lithuanian dancers, we had a lot of musicians during our Open House Vilnius event. We also had other artists. So each artist gives some kind of new perspective or new light to the architecture. That's why we invite those architects all the time. And in addition to that, each year we have open call for that year's poster. So this is also one of the opportunity to invite people to create and to interpret our that year theme. And last but not least, since last year we started guided tours in other languages, not only in Lithuanian. So this year we are going to proceed with that idea as well. And we are planning to have 6 buildings that will be open to people who understand English. And also, since the war, we have quite a lot of people from Ukraine as well in Vilnius. So that's why we decided to have 3 buildings available to people from there. And there will be excursions in Ukrainian. So yeah, that's it. That's the essence of Open House Vilnius. And our connections here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vilnius team. We cannot wait for the festival to come. And this is it. That was 12 cities, 12 festivals, 12 presenters, and thank you all for your insights and for your magnificent job you're doing in your towns, cities, and countries. Again, round big applause for you actually now. And that was actually almost a small open house event here, virtually. We traveled a lot, I believe. And now we have come to the last part of our event. This is panel discussion, which promises to be an engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Architectural literacy and public involvement in the city making. All true, good. And I believe we need to prepare stage for discussion, right? To put some chairs, or we can do a standing discussion. Great. So, dear guests, first of all, I would like to present the moderator of the panel. First of all, for me, a wonderful radio host. For you, yes, architect, I believe so. Matas, come here. Matas Šupšinskas. Table, drinks, everything for you. Good. Next, I would like to invite our first panelist. And this is urbanist and advisor to the chief architect of Vilnius City Municipality, Tadas Jonauskis. Let's give him a warm applause. Please, Tadas, take your seat. Our second guest in the panel is Adelė Dovydavičiūtė, architect and one of the founders of Open House Vilnius and former manager of this project. Thank you for joining, Adelė. Finally, we have with us urban sociologist Dalia Čupailaitė-Višnevska. Please take your seat on stage. And finally, I would like to give word and the microphone for Matas and to wish a good and provoking discussion for you all. Thank you.
Okay. So, I was thinking to present all the speakers, but there is no need for that. First of all, hello everyone. It's great to see you all here. We will have a discussion on architectural literacy and public involvement in city making. And what is really nice for me today is that we have speakers with which are all lovely people, but also they are professionals in their field and they have very, very different experiences. So I think that's the main advantage that we have today. When we started preparing for this discussion, we received a brief description of the topic, and it guided us, at least in the meeting that we had online. So I will quote it just for all of us to be on the same page. So, architecture is a common interest because we all share the city space we live in. More than that, it is shaped collectively through various processes. In the open and democratic society, architects are not the only experts deciding on spatial questions, so productive public involvement in the process is needed more than ever. So that was the very official introduction that we had. But I think we moved much more further from this. So, architectural literacy and public involvement. This might be a very, very obvious question, but why do we need public involvement at all in all those city-making processes? Very, very primitive question, maybe obvious to most of us, but I'm not sure that it's such a simple one.
Hello, hello, hi. Yeah, thank you for inviting me here to talk about public involvement, which is quite often that you, as an architect, you kind of see it more as a danger, right? you don't want that. You don't want to be involved. You don't want to be questioned because it's part of the work that you do, kind of a bit closed off. But I think in general, kind of involvement or public literacy and this big topic is all about how do we see our environment and how do we understand what's the quality of our environment. And it's not only about making a checklist that's it, I involve the public and my project is done and the building is going to be kind of it's living its own life. But I think it's more that how people, before building even appeared or kind of was conceived, understood what the building will make influence on the environment. During the project process, how do you communicate what you are doing? And also after that, how building is living and what people think does this building contribute to their quality of environment. So this kind of public involvement and a bit kind of talking about not only between client and architect and then that's it, but involving broader public. It's, in my opinion, it's more about how do you understand what environment you live in? What do you expect from it? What do you expect from the buildings that should contribute back to you? So, I don't know, a short kind of...
Hi everyone, it's very nice to be here. I really agree with Tadas, what he said about it. To add to it, I think that involvement and participation in the processes of creating cities and your neighborhoods, it's part of empowering people to feel owners of a city, because we are all citizens of our cities where we come from, and I think we should feel owners of the cities and be part of it. So if we are just silently sitting in the corner and watching what is happening, most likely we can become disappointed, you know. So if we are there and we express ourselves, if we are interested in what is happening, and of course, if we have a chance to do that, which is another thing that not always happens, so maybe this discussion will be a little bit about that as well, how to ensure public involvement and what is happening now. We can talk about Vilnius, maybe some people could share their thoughts about what is happening in another cities of Europe, so I think the ownership of a city.
You're both architects, so let's ask Dalia. Maybe she has an opposite opinion.
Maybe not opposite, just a complementary approach. And I definitely want to quote one of favorite authors, Jane Jacobs, when she writes that cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are designed by everybody. And also the idea of Henri Lefebvre that cities are collective work of art or œuvre, meaning that cities are so complex, multi-layered, full of encounters, people, and everything, so that from one vantage point of an architect or municipality, you cannot cover all those complexities. So what participation gives, I would say, three main things from my point of view. One is empowerment, second is knowledge, and the third one is the trustworthiness. So empowerment, because the city-making decisions, they impact all or most people, and they change the daily round, neighborhoods, services we can access, atmosphere we experience, and so on and so on. So we need to be able to participate in this, to participate in our environment. And also when the public institutions are being designed, also to participate, to know how they can be used. As for the knowledge, so one thing is the local knowledge. Architects might be experts on form, on even specific institutions and how they work, but the local knowledge, how the specific place works, what's important there, what kind of experiences are important where, what doesn't work, it's always specific. The second type of knowledge is knowledge about different groups and experiences, different bodies, different roles, different moments in our life cycles, and so on, one person or even a group or even an organization cannot know all these aspects that can be brought by participation. And the third thing is just all kind of knowledge. Sometimes you don't know what knowledge is important in specific site. And so people coming from specific place can be artists and so on, and they can bring in. And as for trustworthiness, again, when the planning is done behind the closed walls, when people don't know what's happening, they develop this lack of trust. For public institutions, for municipalities, for architects, as professionals. And this involvement allows to develop the trust between these groups, so I think so.
But when we were preparing, you mentioned that first of all, architects need to be educated. An open house is aimed not to an architects, but to general audience, general public. So, is it true? Is it only architects needed to be educated for better city to be created? Especially as you were writing about the open city concept, which includes a lot of different groups and different people in that environment. So is it all that we need? Educated architects?
Enlightened architects. Sorry, caught me, so I got some water. When I say that architects need to be educated, most often I mean that architects should understand the architecture as moving through time, space, including so many people, so that architecture is an organized complexity from so many different groups and roles and so on, but we each can move into different roles through different moment. So that's why I like to educate architects and speak about buildings as social places. I'm not so sure that people should be like educated about the open city or about, this means simply about democracy or about diversity in this city, being together in this city. Why I'm saying this is because like educating is as even you trying to being paternalistic and to push people into this. But I think that through experiencing buildings that provide this kind of structure, that allow overlaps, that allow people to implement different interests in the same structures, not only implementing one group's interest, you can also provide this education for people. And also I thought that even this experience of enjoying open life, in open house in a crowd, in festival in a crowd, and being this, experiencing this crowd and being together already is in a way is educational for diversity and for collective use of buildings.
Hello. Hi. All right. So what I would like to add to what Dalia was saying, that in a way when we not educate but we involve an open kind of general public into experiencing the buildings and experiencing understanding the reasons why the building is like this, why it was built, what is the story behind it. And I think for architects it's important that we are kind of developing a more understandable, probable future client. So we are making sure that general public and already raises higher bar for what do they expect from architects? What do you expect? How do you understand what is a good building, right? And when you don't have such possibilities to learn and to understand and to visit, oh, this is a good building, this is why they did it, this is all the reasons. So then when you encounter an architect in a different possible chances, like whether you are hiring for your own building or you are just participating in a neighboring area where a project is building, so you already can react. But look, I saw it, right? And I want a bit better design, a better quality, and the building should react better to my environment and add an extra quality. So it's not only architects, and I think for architects it's also important to see that their buildings could be appreciated, right? It's not the idea that we are like in a small group of friends and colleagues, we kind of just are so happy, we won awards, we want something else, and everyone is pushing likes, but it's all architects only. But it's just, 36,000 people in Vilnius just visiting those buildings. It's amazing. And I think that's a reward of a good architecture.
Yeah, I think that it's true that architects like the challenge of making it higher quality rather than lower. So what you said, it is really important thing.
But then I want to ask a question. So what is a high quality building, and how can we know if it's high quality when we encounter it? So what are those aspects we can find out about buildings?
It's a complicated question. I think on one hand, it could be the quite personal and very subjective answer. Like for me, it's one quality elements. For Matas, it's probably a bit different. But I guess I'm coming a bit more from urban point of view. So if the building is contributing to not only itself, but also to built environment, so it has open facades, it's kind of not enclosed. You can see how the building is reacting to the public space. You see that it does not harm, but actually add extra quality to the space. I think that's already a kind of small signs what you could treat it as like a good architecture, good kind of building, making good to the context. Well, when you come to aesthetics, to kind of the certain design qualities, I think there the kind of everything becomes a bit more blurred, at least from my point of view. And I think it's quite easy to judge how it reacts to the environment, to the next of the buildings, and how people live. Is it comfortable? Is it not comfortable? Is it functional or not functional? And the rest, I guess, it's very subjective.
Maybe as buildings and quality, I think it has to, and maybe the cities as well, like quality aspect has to be in every aspect of the building, like in the process of how it is made, and the design of spaces, the design of function and connections, the principles of how people can use it, how open or closed it is, how innovative it is, how sustainable it is, how quality materials it uses, and at the end how it is delivered and built in a quality way. So I think the quality is not just one thing that we can say, okay, if we make this is quality architecture or quality city planning. There are so many layers in this that it has to tick in almost every aspect, this quality requirement or need.
And also, sorry. Another way of looking at quality, maybe it's when we look on impact. Impact on environment, impact on social aspect, impact on something, on sustainability, on materials, on anything. I think that also we are getting more and more aware of, that architecture and construction industry is quite kind of impactful, right? And this impact is very heavy at some points that we never kind of dare to look at it. And we like concrete, but what's the price that we have to pay to use it? That's quite substantial, right? And it's a bit self-education of architects and education or awareness of general public of where you are acting, because Lithuanian architects community is one, it has one specific understanding of what is appropriate, what is not. And then if you come with the same building in Sweden, you might be kind of dismissed immediately because you are not answering and checking the impact aspects of it. So your building becomes unqualified to even be considered.
Okay, so it's easier for you when the client has higher expectations for architectural quality and higher understanding of architectural quality. That's okay, but you need to communicate with that client. It's not just enough to have high expectations. You need to work with it, with them, and find different solutions. And in this, I think not only quality is needed, but also ability to communicate and talk in the same level, at least a little bit, because always experts maybe has some more technical knowledge or some experience in the field. But anyway, they have to find the way to communicate. And for this, I think some literacy, architectural literacy is needed as well about the whole process, not about the final result, but the whole system, how it's working. So what is the basic literacy that is needed for general public? Do they need to read some legal documents, some drawings and things like that? How to help them to communicate with you? And yeah.
Okay, you're looking at me, right? Okay, so literacy of, it a bit depends on probably the, I think, on the stage. The project is not only, you know, from, let's say, from when you get the task and then you get the building permit. It's kind of much longer. So I think literacy also should be that people should be aware of city planning documents, of what might happen next to you, even the building is not yet thought of, right? So there is an empty land and you should be you should be able to understand that it's gonna be built or it's gonna be left open as it is, as an open space, as a park. So I think that type of literacy, it is quite important. Otherwise you kind of, you don't, let's say, probably then you are not aware, or not aware, but you are not so involved into city planning, and maybe you will never understand what's kind of how to react to it. So that's one thing. The other thing is when already is a design process. And for that, I guess, literacy shouldn't be that much of importance because you have an architect that you can communicate with you. So we have tools of plans, visualizations, 3D, augmented reality, virtual walks, etc. So there are so plenty of tools what you can do. But coming back a bit to planning process, I think the city has to be the mediator to communicate the plans. So that's where the kind of, again, the plans, the visions, the ideas should be communicated quite well, and that's quite often not done quite well, and how to do it without a real visualizations, without a real kind of understandable objects. It's quite hard sometimes because you don't know how the area could be developed, but it's possible that it will be changed. So there is a big challenge for the city, and then there's a big challenge for architect, and then when the construction is happening, that's another kind of moment, you know, because usually it impacts this daily life. Some of the crosses are blocked. Sometimes the area is much larger, occupied than it's needed. So, kind of just to answer in a long way, literacy, maybe it shouldn't be that important of general public to read it. I think it's more important for the from a communicating side to make sure that you communicate it well, whether it's a city, an architect, or a client, or a contractor who is building it.
Yeah, I think to add to these stages that are crucial thing in planning and all the process, maybe we need just some kind of simple how-to cards for public, just to know the steps, where and how you can participate. Like, I don't know, maybe there is such a thing in municipality that you just open the website and it says like, what are the guidelines, where you can go, and like, just to know 5 or 10 steps how to participate. And maybe we need some kind of public campaign just to make posters in the city, in the bus stops, just to advertise that people should participate, that it's their right and their thing to do. And another thing about literacy, I think, is what Open House, probably not only in Vilnius but everywhere, is trying to do, is to give a little bit of knowledge about architecture, about spaces, how to read them, try to identify what you feel in these different environments and buildings and public spaces, and how to understand some basic, not basic as simple, but crucial basic principles of architecture and design, and how things work. I think when people start to have this knowledge a little bit, then they start to feel better and maybe understand a little bit more how complex it is, and then it's easier to have a conversation, to participate in the discussion, and to ask for this higher quality when you know what you ask for.
Dalia?
Yeah, I agree with everything, and you said understand how complex it is, but also become empowered to understand what they might want, what they might request, what they can ask for. If you see the school, experience the school, which supposedly works well, but or public spaces or other public institutions or types of houses or dwelling or housing, and you can understand. I think what can architectural literacy can bring. It can help you understand what you like and don't like, because most often we experience places in the state of destruction. We move through, and it's even biologically natural, but we can see only very few things. And when we look at something, we don't see anything else. So, and then when we experience places that are uncomfortable, but we don't understand why, or we dislike, or something even makes us angry, but we don't know why. So through gaining this information, you can kind of start actually seeing and explain for yourself, and then also articulate better what you want and what you don't like. And I was also thinking, so what can you be educated, or how can you educate yourself, or what through experience you can know about architecture? And as a sociologist, I'm interested in social relationships. So for me, architecture is very interesting in a way it organizes social relationships, or it's spatial, how through spatial configurations, different types of virtual communities, communication, separation become possible in the building, and how then they relate to, again, all those roles we play in this building. And there are so many groups in the same building playing different roles and so on. So one thing is this understanding of spatial relationships inside the building, outside the building, what you were talking about, this in urbanist perspective, how it relates to the street, and then in concentric circles, how that affects neighborhood, city, and so on and so on. Again, related to that, how it allows us to live, how it allows us to be in those buildings, and because we also visit the historical buildings, how people lived before, what standards did they have, how they moved, why do those buildings look like this? They had different stairs, you know, for these different groups of people and so on. So you can understand the logic of the building and what it can give to you. The second thing, I think this will be very unsociological, but appreciation of beauty, of form, of materials, of decision, of the craftsmanship of architecture. And it's just, as I said, you can see only when you look at something. And looking is loaded with assumption, or it's distracted. So it's very hard to actually look at something. So when you visit the building, you stop from running around in your life. You look at it, and you look at the details, the ceilings and the walls, and some furnishing details, and so on, all aspects. And then you have the story which is being told and explained why in this way, what does it give to you, how the materials were selected, and so on and so on. You can start to actually see, you can start to actually understand and appreciate the volumes, the materials, the craftsmanship that goes into the building. I think this is very important. And together with that, I just want to be cautious that I do not believe in objective aesthetics or objectively good architecture. And I think there is good architecture, and there are actually good aesthetic decisions and so on. But these stories and narratives don't have to indoctrinate the person who is visiting the building. It should help critically understand the building, appreciate it, but also to be able to form your opinions. Because we also have this history of iconic architecture and star architects, where buildings are being built and they are enveloped by the stories even more than the glass sheets that they actually enveloped. Yes, so having this perspective. And the first thing also, maybe related to those is motivation. So why in this way? What was wanted to achieve? Was it related to some specific fashions of the time, social structure, aims, and so on and so on? And when you understand that, again, you can relate those buildings to understand why some of them are so strange. Maybe they are just postmodern, and so on.
Since open house was already mentioned by Adela in your answer, for you as a visitor, for example, how open house helps for this better understanding of social relationships, of architecture, etc. Because you mentioned in the past that in some objects you haven't learned too much about architecture, only about past inhabitants, and maybe it's not enough. So maybe there is something that should be done a bit better or included in the narratives when explaining about objects in open house.
I think all those parts are important, and all this, I think this part about, as you said, previous inhabitants or owners and so on, I think they are very important. Maybe not so much understanding the specific building, but definitely for relating to this building, to the city, and to the city. Because the city has a long history, we cannot easily access it. We learn something at school, but not so excessively. And through this being there and knowing how people lived there and how decisions were made and what further stories happened when the architect was designing it and so on, I think it creates a very important aspect of this place identity, relationship to the place and to the history of the city, and again, appreciation of it. So I think this is a very important part. Sometimes in the new buildings, there is even lack of this. It's just a structural description, for example, and then you maybe cannot relate it so much. So I think all those aspects are really important and fun.
Then I will jump to Adela, since she is experienced not only as a visitor, but also as a part of Open House Vilnius, the whole process. So what was your insider's view to the same issues? And you mentioned that working, for example, with volunteers is very, very important, not only with the general public. So volunteers.
Yeah. So yes, talking about relationship with the buildings, I think it was one of the most important tasks in open house, and still is, to show the buildings, not talking just about purely architectural features of the buildings, but having, again, all the aspects of a building, what it creates, in what kind of context it is, where it comes from, how it was created. Sometimes it's just crucial to understand what kind of result it is. And also the stories of the inhabitants or the owners, of the history of the building. It also helps to connect and to have kind of this building. If you talk about building purely only about architecture, it becomes somewhere like high in the sky. When you talk more about what is happening there every day, it comes to everyday life more, and then it is more relatable. And then when you feel this more equal connection with something, you start to love it more, I think. And talking about volunteers, yes, volunteers is the crucial engine of Open House Vilnius, and I'm sure on other open houses. And very interesting aspect about education, few aspects that I wanted to mention is that before we mentioned a little bit about that education has this word itself, it has this a little bit institutionalized feeling somehow. So when we started Open House, it was obvious that our goal is to educate broader public, but at the same time, a little bit like maybe paradox, when communicating about it, we never emphasized that this is education. We rather just wanted people to come and experience it, but not say that, oh, we're gonna educate you, because it gives a little bit of repulsive feeling somehow if somebody wants to educate you. I'm not educated enough or what? So I think creating this fun experience and this interesting and different one-to-one scale experience allowed just to sneak in with this education somehow to people's hearts. But then, but after some time, so first we were really concentrating to the broader public that we have to educate them, and this is our goal. But then, after a few years, we realized, or maybe even faster, that we are doing very big part of education within the team, because every year is like from 300 to 500 people that are learning about their building, or a few buildings even, for 2-3 months. And then they are learning in order to tell others, in order to educate others, but then secretly they are educating themselves. And I had not one, but many stories about people who just, everybody falls in love with their buildings, first of all, after the open house. I think many of you can relate with that. But then they keep spreading this love. They just, if they have guests in town, they definitely will go and tell about their building. I have people who were telling me how their friends were giving them tours, or how they had guests from other countries that they were taking them to the buildings that they knew about. So it starts to live longer, and then after realizing how big part of education is educating the volunteers, I think we started to more and more invest into this, and this is how this big and strong community created.
Can I add a bit? I think what kind of inspired me when you were talking is that education, when volunteers have to tell something, right? So it's about narrative. And the narrative, how you tell the story, it's quite important. But what you do, you try to deconstruct the previous narratives, right? Why the building was that built, why the architect had this. So this, I think, deconstruction of certain elements. So, and also what Dalia was saying, that there is so many different aspects that you have to, different angles you have to look. So you have to kind of, from practical point of view, just tell, is it like regular details that everyone did like that, and this is kind of the typical house that you can find it everywhere, or is it like super complicated, never thought of, and that's the masterpiece because of technically very thought of details that is there. But at the same time, what the building or the object had to communicate at that time, historically, right? If it was I don't know, big windows, so they had one type of meaning then and another type of meaning now, and they are very different. Kind of, this narrative is already different. So deconstructing it and telling it in a such way that it's not, as you say, education. So now it's a lesson number one. So there should be something very very interesting, and I think that's what intrigues people, because there is a story, and sometimes it's a historical story, sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's about I don't know, modern architecture, and it can in a way inspires. Narratives are for inspiration, and we as an architects, we always have a small narrative when we present, when we participate in competitions. We try to kind of, we have schemes, we have something, so we are telling a certain message which is quite narrow, but it kind of, we believe in it. And then when we just see the building, so is this message still there? Can we recognize it? Is it just was a crazy architect because, well, that's how he did the job, right? And the building is a completely different thing. But when they align, that's where the beauty comes in, right? That's where the nice architecture is.
Yes, and you can't properly give a tour without doing this deconstruction. You can't just learn the text of 10 pages and then be this robotic guide. Or even if you are, after 10 excursions, you will start to actually understand what you're talking about, maybe. So.
Yeah, narratives, I think it's important. Just like with architecture criticism, you can change the attitude towards some topics or buildings, but it's also a bit tricky because by choosing the narrative and by promoting it, you draw attention to certain parts of the cities, to certain buildings, and then the selection is very sensitive question, because for whom this attention is useful and who will profit from that. Maybe all the objects are in the city center and there is real estate prices much higher, and those people from the edges are coming here to see that nice architecture, but they are not learning anything about their built environment from some other parts of the city, which are also interesting and have a lot of things. And I think then is it only interesting public buildings, or maybe just housing estates and things like that also should be included?
Yeah, I think what, at least the way I look at open house, which is a continuous project, right? So it's maybe not a project, it's like a phenomena, right? And probably most of the cities have like the core of the buildings are still the same, right? Every year by the year. And sometimes you have that it's different public coming, so you just have to tell the same story, but you have an opportunity to tell a different stories on the same building, and then it becomes also for you a reasonable reason to come again to that building, because now it will be a different story, a different narrative. And then first it was about history, now it's about, I don't know, technical details, and other times it's about something else. So I think, yeah, that probably those selected buildings, they are quite complex and like jewels, and then I think you shouldn't be so worried that it's a specific story, just one-sided, or it's not only about or targeted to something. Maybe even it could be a themed open house as well, that it's today or this year is about I don't know, sustainability, and then you look through all different aspects, from historical point of view, from other points of view. So why not
or maybe some parallel conflicting stories about the same issue. But since you already jumped to sustainability, that's, I think, also an interesting question. What kind of, since in the beginning, I think draw attention to some good quality architectural buildings was sufficient. I mean, it generates attention. Society becomes a bit more informed about good architecture and things like that. But I think now we are facing a lot of new, different social, ecological, and other problems, which requires us to rethink what kind of stories we are telling, because maybe it's not enough just to show the best architecture. Maybe we need to expand our narrative to these topics. So what is the most important I don't know, challenges for Vilnius and in general, or maybe not today, but maybe they will be in the future, in the near future?
Well, very challenging question. Yeah, it's like I wouldn't dare to. It's my subjective maybe answer to that. That's for sure. But I would say quite important is indeed what you say about sustainability, like general sustainability. I think Lithuania and Vilnius is still kind of way behind in understanding what does it mean, and we understand energy, right, with energy prices and etc. So through economics we understand it got to us, right? So that's what it is. So it's but then it's not only about that. So it's much more. And what we I think don't understand, and even an architect community understands not that much, is the price of constructing, the price of materials, the price of what does it takes to have that image that you are doing. And of course it's quite complex topic, which sometimes maybe it's not for general public, maybe it's more should be targeted to architects. But I think first is about, I guess, sustainability in general, about how building all phases, right, from construction to when it's operational, so how much it costs to operate per year, and how these buildings could differ. I think that's one thing that was quite important. Another thing, what Vilnius, in my opinion, is really in need, and I was quite happy to see that Ireland, I think it was doing, is about inclusiveness, which where the architecture is like it's this inclusiveness and making sure that it's for all diverse society members, and you can easily go, and you can not have any kind of difficult. So it's not kind of just checking the list what our requirements they have, but actually the building is kind of functioning like that. I think this topic is really rarely discussed and quite left over and the buildings, and also on the open spaces, public spaces, in the parks. I think this is another thing, and yeah, maybe that's maybe Adele, you add.
I can add few. I think on challenges on two layers I would like to talk about is maybe one on the city planning and city level is converting territories, and we have the process is already happening, but how we're gonna carry on with that, because we have a lot of industrial territories very close to the city center, and how we're gonna incorporate them into all the patterns of a city. Another problem that we are approaching very fast is the housing problem. What we are going to do with this Soviet time-built housing estates, which in Vilnius we call them these sleeping districts. I don't know if people that are our guests now, if you got any tours about it, but it's very big territories of the cities with a lot of housing, and how we're gonna refurbish it and how we're gonna still be able to use it, because most of the people in the city live in these parts. So these two together with what Tadis mentioned. And then another challenge I would like to talk about is what we are talking about, this participation of broader public. I think we have this issue in Vilnius and maybe in whole Lithuania, that we have some trust issues. And I think we have to somehow deal with it, because now the participation, I think that participation of the broader public in the processes of creating the city and architectural projects is way better than it was 10 years ago, better than it was 5 years ago. We are learning, growing, making mistakes, but we are still in this child state, I think. So we have to keep learning and growing, but also we have to learn to trust each other, I mean professionals, institutions, and public, because now it's this free triangle. I think there are a lot of issues with trust, and everybody is being a little bit suspicious that, oh, maybe I don't want to go public because I will be criticized, or I will be completely suspended with the project, or it's easier to do everything silently, or then public is not trusting because something is just, maybe there is a minor mistake, but it becomes a big problem just because for the trust issue. So I think this is the challenges that we should deal with.
Dali is smiling, so...
Yeah, no, that was very good concluding note. So I will a little bit derail to some particular topics.
Okay.
So just to add to that, what I find interesting is, and what I think is still a challenge for architects or urban planning, is just this relationship of architecture and the city, a relationship of architectural object, let's say, structure, or complex of structures with its environment. Because we talk, and so many scientists have written about this interconnected city of overlaps. And however, at the moment, Vilnius is a little bit built as a collection of separate objects having no relationships with its environment, neither in terms of its meaning and its use, nor in terms of this direct physical connection with the street, with the public area surrounding it. So then you have many places where you just have tall buildings surrounded by very unpleasant dead spaces you have to walk through, cold ones with wind and nothing happening there. And related to this connection, I also want to touch upon the question of dwelling. Housing is or we can say housing, but housing shows just like boxes to live in, and dwelling shows, like poetically dwells man on this earth. So appropriation and experience the full life. And I think that, and also in open house, we visit these monuments, important public buildings, very beautiful buildings, or what we can call poetry of architecture, but this prose of architecture, everyday architecture we live in, still stays the same. Again, following on everything what's written about how to live in the city, still housing is being built in Vilnius as separated structures of very repetitive houses. Depending on in which districts you are, you can see the same type of houses. They look everywhere, again, the same, and they are built in this form of what I would call broken modernism, just surrounded by the fence. So we have these different areas, but what I think is needed is more creativity and more experimentation of how to live together, how to accommodate different types of families and forms of people living together. And there are examples in other cities where flats are being created in a way that you can use for very different kind of groups of people using them. And also just in general forms, structures, how to live together, but also have public space in the street and interconnected cities. So this experimentation I also don't see in Vilnius. So, and maybe through these housing schemes that we visit in open house, such as Montville's colony and others, we can see also other standards of living when we are suggested at the moment. Also not mentioning the affordable housing issue, which is also very important in Vilnius today.
That also sounds like a quite nice ending note. More examples of how we live together. It's also a nice conclusion. But since in the audience we have some people from abroad, maybe they have some questions, but maybe they have some challenges to mention that are evident and very important in some other countries, other cities, etc. I'm not sure. Does anybody have some comments or questions? No? Okay, so I think that was the nice ending note. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matas. Thank you all panelists. Again, your applauses. I think this is time to give some final applauses. I think we will be able to share some experiences and to continue those discussions in a less formal atmosphere right now. And I have to say some final words. I believe you heard enough of inspiring words today. Anyway, your inspiring words have reminded us that quality spaces are crucial for our well-being and happiness, and that we all have a role to play in shaping our built environment. So the Open House Euro project is an excellent example of how we can work together across borders to foster a more inclusive and accessible debate about architecture and to empower citizens to advocate for a well-designed built environment. Finally, I would like to express gratitude for all speakers. We had wonderful presentations, very insightful. I would like to express gratitude to National Arts Gallery for hosting us here. And finally, before closing this event, I would like to invite you for a final part, less formal part, for a glass of wine, some delicious snacks, some nice music, and also to enjoy this evening and to continue those debates, discussions, to have nice friendships and nice conversations together. So thank you all, and I hope you'll enjoy Vilnius tonight. Bye-bye.